a bit late with the video today, but I work Fridays through Mondays, and Monday I'm literally exhausted, and I generally sleep in the afternoon on a Monday because I have to get up early on a Monday morning. But I'm refreshed suitably now, and I trimmed my hair a little bit, and feeling a little bit alive, finally, after a rough weekend, working, not boozing. But yes, interesting things happening now. Okay. Firstly, I want to draw your attention to an interview that John Waters did with Greg Moffat on Legalized Freedom. And it's a 2 hour interview. The second hour is behind a paywall, but it's well worth subscribing to his Legalized Freedom network, because there's literally, it must be thousands of hours of fantastic interviews there you can access, and loads by me going back probably nearly a decade. And so it's a real gold mine. And so I'll put the link to it below. It's actually a beautiful talk that the two of them do, and it's quite solemn, and it's one of those things. Like, I'm hardly Mr. Patriotic, but I was listening to those two men talking. It's one of those things that makes me kind of proud to be Irish, because they spoke about it in a way I think only Irish people can. And the second hour especially was quite moving. I found it very moving. Now, uh, it was just the things that what needed to be said about the whole ping pong and everything, the needlecraft and the whole lot. And you know, I think John said something that you can't argue with. He said, as a metaphor, he said, I've even thought about the concept of, this is like an alien invasion of people's consciousness that's changed them. But because even as a metaphor, it actually works better than the official narrative. And that's where we are. And that got me thinking. And that got me thinking all day yesterday, all last night, and all today. And this will be a bit of an esoteric dive for some of you, but please bear with me, because this stuff is real. Like, we're all in agreement now that this is a spiritual war, a spiritual battle. It's nothing to do with a healthcare crisis. It's, although yes, I do agree that there is, these people say that the virus hasn't been isolated. It has many, many times, and it does exist, and it did cause damage, but last year, but it's relatively, in terms of the schemes of killer viruses, it's nowhere near as bad as they made it out to be. But they weaponized it, as we all know, into something else. And so confusion is the king of all this. Now, those of you who have been following me for a long time, and by the way, welcome to the many thousands who've arrived in recent weeks. Like, I can't believe my videos get 10,000 views like in 24 hours. But so, welcome, and I'm delighted to have you on board. Some of you might find this difficult to grasp, but in my old Velocity of Now radio shows, I did a special one night on an entity called Choronzon-333. Now, Choronzon is a demon, essentially, a super demon. And I know this sounds amazing hearing this now and off the wall, but bear with me. These excuses are often better than these rationalizations are often better than anything you get from mainstream sources. Now, this entity, I couldn't even name him until last year. I couldn't even name him, but it seems safe to name him now. It's out in the open, and I was calling him C333. Now, Choronzon was first identified through the Enochian magic of Edward Kelly and John Dee in the Elizabethan court, and they immediately identified this entity that was basically about disease and confusion, and known to be the babbler in the abyss. That its purpose is to destroy sensibility and intelligent thinking and discourse. It creates this confusion and babble. Now, the internet has been a glorious hunting ground for Choronzon, especially social media and things like Facebook and the comments on YouTube. And you, I have had, I've got a reputation of instantly banning people and going back a long time. And I don't take no shit. And if I see any kind of slight manifestation of Choronzonic behavior, the babblers in the abyss, I'll immediately shut it down and block the person. Even if they've been on my group friends book for a long time, if I see any kind of wild distortion and shift in character to create confusion and to create an almost gaslighting sensibility, sense of not sensibility, sense of confusion, they're gone. Okay, I have this entity Choronzon is extremely dangerous. It's basically what the devil is to Christianity. Choronzon is to Thelema. It's a very, but the purpose of but he serves a very powerful purpose. Choronzon. He is the last demon that guards the gate before the walk into enlightenment. So if you get past Choronzon and you push him to one side, you attain enlightenment. Now, Choronzon always shows up when you could be doing well in life, and somebody comes in and creates massive amounts of, things are going well, massive amounts of confusion and distortion. And they have they try to keep you on board. Like they tease and they tease and they grab and it pulls and it taunts. And I have no doubt that over the years I've actually encountered the real entity, Choronzon, online. I've no doubt about that. I've actually confronted it, and these sudden accounts that appeared out of nowhere. Now, especially when any time a smear campaign was ran against me, that was always Choronzonic possession, and basically a group of people possessed by Choronzon. And then also you would find that these accounts would appear out of nowhere, and to join in, that would almost certainly be Choronzon alongside them. This is why immediately you just, when you see this, you get right out of it, because just about everybody who's ever taken part in one of those smear campaigns, their lives have ended up as a catastrophe. I mean, really bad stuff. And this is the quarry of dealing with Choronzon and supping at his table. Now, when Victor Neuburg and Crowley attempted, well, they did manifest, unleash Choronzon into this reality in the Algerian desert about 100 years ago, no more than that, about 115 years ago. Crowley gave Neuburg a dagger to kill himself if he felt himself being possessed by Choronzon, because it was better. The only way you could save your soul at the final moment is to kill yourself, just as Choronzon is about to enter you. Your soul is fucked otherwise, and that's why they carry you when you invoke Choronzon to that extreme, bringing it into this reality. You're in such danger of losing your mortal soul that you have to kill yourself rather than let it possess you, or you're finished completely. Your future soul path is gone. So this is how dangerous Choronzon is. And I did a broadcast, and people told me that when I did the VON broadcast about 5 or 6 years ago on Choronzon, that they just said it changed everything for them. It brought them into, they had no interest in the occult or the esoteric until they heard my lecture on Choronzon, and they said that suddenly what they thought was hocus pocus and nonsense started to make a lot of sense to them. That there was these energy forces behind reality that seek to destroy reality that we presently inhabit in order to create confusion. Now, the chaos musicians and the likes of Peter Carroll saw Choronzon as a kind of a useful force, almost like a super jester, in order to this confusion could create manifestations of new versions of reality. And they seem to have some success with it. But they're dealing. If you look at if you read up on their writings on Choronzon, it's very hands offish. They did not go to the extreme of Crowley and Neuberg in the Algerian desert. It was so dangerous, Choronzon, that he had to actually go into the middle of the desert to bring him into manifestation into this earth. That's how dangerous it was. It was like exploding an atomic bomb in the middle of the desert, so you don't kill anyone nearby in a city or in the middle of some empty atoll in the Pacific. But the Choronzon has been feeding furiously upon social media. Now, he's the lord of chaos, cancer, and cholera. So he's heavily associated with disease and confusion. Not he's the babbler in the abyss. Now, what have we been dealing with for the last last year and a half? Confusion, babbling, contradictory rules, constant changes in how we're supposed to behave. Certain things are dangerous. The next day they're not dangerous. A day later, a politician gets caught doing them. Suddenly they're dangerous again. And this kind of thing. And people don't know where they stand except they're given rules to follow. But the rules are burlesque in nature. They're designed, you have people that say they're comfortable, normies who are very comfortable following rules. But these rules are burlesquing in nature, and they're designed to make fools of the people. Now, this is coming through this Choronzonic energy, which has basically polluted the mainstream media. The entity has moved from social media and become extremely powerful, and it's moved into mainstream media, and it's running basically the entire mainstream media, as well as all the end. These people are all possessed by this demon called Choronzon. Now, Choronzons creates all this confusion. In fact, the whole concept of nonlinear warfare and critical theory is extremely Choronzonic in its nature, in that you don't really know what anything truly means, and you don't really understand what things represent, but you have to abide by arbitrary rules in order to get to the next stage of whatever it is this force is supposedly guiding you to. And these arbitrary rules can change on the fly in an instant and mean nothing and contradict themselves completely the next day. Remember, the first lockdown, we had no masks. We were allowed to go to pubs and restaurants without no masks. But you could buy, if you bought a €10 steak or cheeseburger with your pint of beer, this somehow that made it okay. This is classic Choronzonic. This is demonic. You see, this is the thing. Yeah, I mean, when people on the Christian side, folks on the Christian side of this stuff, and I know I have an awful lot of Christian followers now who've come over in recent months, and it's probably also why I've toned down my own anti-Christian rhetoric in recent times. Not so much that I don't want to hurt people's feelings. I've always been resident of that. I've never deliberately sought to hurt a person's feelings. But if they attacked me with some kind of evangelical proselytizing that was designed to judge me, I'd give it right fucking back to them, big time. But I now see the Christians. See, this is the thing, folks. We're enlightening here. It's starting to look like this could have been the best thing that ever happened to Christianity since probably forever. It's like, I mean, who would have thought that I'd have a big, huge Christian following now? And the reason why is Christians are becoming enlightened now in a different way. The disgraceful and disgusting behavior of the clergy in all this, not documented very well by people like John Waters and others, to not give, and all people in Ireland, they'd have a very strong faith. The old Catholic folks would. And anyone over 70 or 80 in Ireland would probably have a very, very strong Catholic faith. And these people needed the last rites, and they wanted to see it. Even if their family members and their kids may not have been as religious, they would have wanted a Catholic priest there at the end to issue the last rites and to do all these things, and the fuckers were hiding behind their mansions rent free, you know. And the same, and it wasn't just the Catholics; the Protestants were doing it as well. The Church of England was particularly despicable, and the Church of Ireland was rotten as well in how it behaved. And you know, I've looked. I was reading Jewish papers like the Forward, and there was a mixed thing about it. Although that the Forward is an incredibly politically correct rag now at this point. It's like pink news at this point. It's just unbelievable. But it's I don't know what Jewish people it actually represents anymore. I guess like the Irish Times doesn't represent Irish people anymore. It's the same thing. But in the Forward, there was some some articles and editorials by rabbis, actually vehemently against having this thing injected into you, this needlecraft. So it wasn't all black and white there, but unbelievable. We seen a couple of Polish priests who stood up, and there was one particular gentleman in Canada, and we had a couple of Irish priests who did try to do the right thing, and they ended up having the handcuffs put on them by the Garda. But in general, the behaviour of the bishops and like not just the upper clergy, the entire clergy completely abandoned the laity, not the laity, yeah, the laity, and that's, I think that's what they're called, yeah, the laity, and suddenly Irish Christians, both Catholics and Protestants, were left out in the cold in this horrific spiritual battle with no captains and kings, no hoovedsmen, navigators to help them navigate the storm. The bishops, priests, nuns, and monsignors and cardinals all said, well, fuck you, I'm hiding, I'm not going anywhere, which proved what John Waters always says, they didn't believe in this shit to begin with. So they left all these people who are Christians abandoned, okay? And and I think some good has come out of that, because they've kind of reverted back to a kind of a solitary form of Christianity, where they're not going to bother their arse ever again with the organizational structures and mandates of the actual religion, and they're just going to say, look, I'm a Christian. That's the end of it. I believe in Jesus. So I mean, I think that's one of the reasons I've definitely toned down my rhetoric on when it comes to Christians. And in the past, you've known me, I've been very anti-Christian, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's a middle ground has been found between my paganism and their Christianity. That's kind of like, regardless of what our I've got Muslim friends and stuff, loads of Hindus. The Hindus have always been brilliant, and Jewish people, and even atheists. But the middle ground has kind of been found, where it's like, maybe the badges and the labels, it doesn't matter right now because we're up against the same demonic force. And Choronzon fits that bill perfectly, because Choronzon, it migrates between, even though it's essentially an English demon, we don't know, well, that's where it manifested, it was probably around before that. We do know that Enochian is probably a real language that came from the Middle East. Again, we don't, or Iran or Persia, we don't know, but it's, that's a remarkable story with Kelly Allman itself. But the babbler in the abyss, what happens when you defeat Choronzon, or when you reject him, or you get past him, you attain true enlightenment. Isn't that kind of what's happening me now, being less hostile to Christians, that I've actually attained a new enlightenment in me? That's what's happened with Christians who don't think that I'm going to burn in hell or something like that because the bishop says so. You see, it's very interesting, isn't it? That this, it's a spiritual battle. You have to remember that. It's okay to say this is a spiritual battle, but you don't leave it at that. What are battles? What's the purpose of a battle? To be fucking won, okay? To be fucking won, okay? So as Malcolm X said, we didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. So we didn't ask for this. We didn't call for the world to be turned into a basket case, electronic prison. We didn't call for any of this. None of it, right? Now, a classic example of Choronzonic energy in all this could relate to the needlecraft itself, right? Now, they've just released the the preliminary findings of the Novavax, which is a traditional vaccine specifically tailored using the protein system for COVID-19, right? Now, it's gone through its clinical trials with about 40,000 people in the UK, South Africa, Mexico, and the USA. The peer review and final results have come out, but this is not the same as the needlecraft. This is your traditional, the same when you get your shots when you go to, on a foreign holiday to the developing world and all. So initially they rush out these ones, right? They rush out the needlecraft, right? Comes out first, right? Just like the latest iPhone, there's a certain kind of idiot moron who will run out to get the thing. I have to have the latest iPhone. I have to have the latest this. I have to have the latest inoculation. The first one I can get. Be the first one on your block to know that time and own a clock. That's what it's like, And and they ran out to get it for pubs and Benidorm. Now, again, I have tremendous sympathy and solidarity with people who have to get it, were forced to get it through their jobs. And I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to judge them the way some of those types calling us plague rats judge us. It's another thing. As part of the spiritual battle and its attainment towards enlightenment is to show compassion that they don't. So, for instance, just because you hear these stories like saying, well, I know loads of people now, friends and family, that have been rejected by their loved ones, closest, nearest, and dearest, because they didn't get needlecraft. Okay, now that doesn't mean that we should turn it around and be just as cunty, not at all. So therefore, anyone I know who's taken it, once they're a nice person and respectful, and I'm not going to look down and talk shit to them and talk to them like that. So that's part of the enlightenment process as well. We can show the way that we as the tribe, and when I use the tribe, I don't just mean anyone who knows me. I mean, say, the greater tribe beyond us gang, right? Those of us who are in this position right now, who understand the spiritual implications and rules of engagement involved in all this. We have been spiritually tested, but we have crossed the abyss. As I said yesterday, you should be, instead of being negative all the time about this, be very proud that we've had a year and a half of ferocious assault. Look at me, before this all started, every few weeks it would seem I was in another part, I was on Europe and around England, I was everywhere traveling, doing films. They tore the arse out of that. Luckily, I have a good crew now with Jason and Timothy in America that cover that stuff. But because of all this, basically, I developed a passion for filmmaking that I was becoming really good at, and the whole Rona thing tore the fucking arse right out of it, and kind of has trapped me. But I didn't give up. We founded the Symposium 313, and we found a way around it. And so it's no use saying we're in a spiritual battle and sitting there with your arms folded. As it says as Krishna said to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, fight, Arjuna, fight. That's yes, you come into this reality. Now, John Waters said something quite beautiful on the Greg Moffat interview. He said, I now understand. Well, it's painful too. I know, but this is enlightenment. I now understand that all my life's work, from starting out in rock and roll and journalism in Ireland through the mainstream media, big shot that he was for a long time, that it's all been for this. It's all been for this. And I feel the same way too. It's all been for this. This is what it's for. This is what, this is what's brought us together. This is not an accident. We are a spiritual force. And somehow, even if we didn't have the language, you see, Christians would call it satanic, or they would say things like it's Luciferian. Now you know that I venerate Lucifer, the pagan god, not Lucifer of the biblical mistake, and that's a god of enlightenment. And you would have like the Hindu might call them the Nagas. Someone who's more kind of like in the David Icke kind of thing would call them reptilians. Name your poison literally, right? But I think for me, Choronzon fits the bill because I know for a fact this entity exists. It's been haunting me for many years. It's been trying to destroy me. This is why I can't. I spoke to you in the past about the certain people I can't be around. Heavy pot smokers, alcoholics, and people with mental illness, because what happens is the Choronzonic energy affects them to go at me. That this is why, and it's not because I'm cruel or evil. It's because it's happened too many times now that I have, and also some people's extreme depression can bring Choronzonic energy into your world as well. These are the ones who can suddenly turn on you. It's not being hateful. I'm trying to protect myself. I've been in this spiritual battle, believe me, longer than all of you. And I've known something. And those of you who followed me for a long time, who've heard me talk about Choronzon, 5-6 years ago, you've known this. You've known that there was something on the horizon. That when I would bring this stuff up, it was more than just me giving you an esoteric lecture. It was something that I'd walked in, I'd been there. And, my God, I have. There's things that have happened to me. I'm talking about like, magical, dark, spiritual things that I'll probably never speak about in public. But you have no idea what I've gone through in some of the things. I'm not saying I'm a martyr, I'm special or anything like that. But I'm just saying it's happened, and it's part of it's like you join the army, you don't complain about getting into a battle. It's the same thing. I dived into this world. Now the gifts that I've attained from it have been immeasurably greater than any of the negativity stuff that came from it. Immeasurably greater. I wouldn't change it for the world. In the same way that career soldiers are not going to say I hate the army. They will say I like being a military man. I like the army life. It's a good life for a man like me. Well, this is a good life for a man like me. And it's challenged me in the most despicable ways and horrible ways. And frankly, I'm often amazed that I'm still alive. I really am. I'm quite amazed that I'm still alive some days. And but it gives me a lot of protection as well, and a lot of love. It's like my motivation for this is pure and total love. I mean, I genuinely love the people that I want to see get through this. And that's not just me being a fucking, I love you, and when I say love, I mean, I cherish their souls like an endangered species that has to be protected in a world where we have absolutely no decreasing spiritual biodiversity, where everything is moving towards the technocratic, transhumanist, soulless void of nothingness. And every soul along the way that we can keep vital is one more brick in the masonry of the wall standing up against that bullshit. And that's how I see this. And that's the whole thing of this I mean, like, when I have to laugh when I started. Someone sent me the email about the Novavax, and I started looking and investigating, and I'm saying, that why wasn't that released first? A traditional vaccine. Now, okay, I understand this. It was because they wanted the Choronzonic energy wanted to destroy the initial people, to confuse them and create Babel. The babblers in the abyss. The babblers in the abyss. Now, as a result of finding and coming to this realization this morning, I actually feel the best I have in a good few months. I actually feel pretty good today. And that's why it's like, I tell you why. So I say some of you might have been confused and disturbed, in pain, emotionally. and frightened, and you're allowed to be, by the machinations of the psychopathic control grid during the last year and a half of the ping pong, right? And that's okay. And then you stumble upon my video, and you say, and you're all right to me. I felt a billion times better, Thomas, when I heard you talk about this. Now, I'm not the answer to anything, right? I'm not the answer to anything. Why you felt a lot better when you stumble upon my videos, and why I feel a lot better today, is you get espionage on the enemy, and you say to yourself, I'm not a fucking moron, I'm not a douchebag, I'm not an idiot. There is something here. I was right all along, and this fella in Ireland has just handed me the battle plan of the enemy. And that's why you felt good, because you were in charge. You were in charge once again. And I told you, don't be frightened. Keep your sense of humor very important, and create and create and create and create and create. No matter what is the real story behind this, the bigger picture, and I still believe there is something else going on behind this. And it's not just, like I said, the Great Reset. That's not, they could do that tomorrow in no problem. There's something, look, the real reason you felt the way you did about this was because regardless if you were a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, black, white, a Hindu, an atheist, a Chinese person, a man, a woman, middle class, lower class, you instinctively, at the soul level, detected that this thing was fucking evil. Am I right? Am I right? You detected that it was fucking evil, okay? That simple realization that it was evil was the sirens going off in the spiritual war to inform you of a pathologically negative, dark spiritual bombardment that was coming, that was arriving on your doorstep. Arriving on your doorstep. And that's why you are in the tribe. That's why you are where you are. That's why you suddenly felt a relief when you found my videos. I don't have the answers, but I do have the battle plan. And I know the battle plan, and I know the enemy, and I know the rules of engagement, and I know the target-rich environments. And I know that, like, I'll give you an example. I'm still seeing people say, how can this be true when they've never isolated the virus? They have, okay? No one's died of this. I'm sorry, they have. They did. But it wasn't a crisis. It wasn't a disaster. It wasn't massively affecting the human race. They used this. They weaponized a pretty nasty seasonal virus for a massive electronic control grid lockdown on the planet. I've heard the other day that the real reason why United Airlines, 2 weeks ago, United Airlines went into absolute chaos. Apparently, this is a rumor out there, unsubstantiated, that 40 United pilots dropped dead immediately after getting the vaccine. 40. Now, because of the nature of this video and its Choronzonic energy. Now, another thing too, now this is very interesting. Again, I'm not attacking gay people, okay? I'm not attacking anyone's sexual lifestyle. Once it's consenting adults and they're not fucking with kids, okay? Other than that, you can be the dirtiest pervert in the world. What two adults do behind the closed door is none of my fucking business, okay? Now, Crowley, in the ritual, the Choronzonic ritual in the desert, Crowley and Neuberg were in mortal danger, and Crowley was Neuberg be inside the circle and Crowley inside the triangle. Neuberg was lashing out at Choronzon. Now, how Choronzon was brought into manifestation was Crowley anally raped Neuberg in the desert. It was the shock, the shocking sex magic act. Neuberg had a homosexual fascination with Crowley, and Crowley wasn't interested. He was into women, but for something like that, he did it, and he did it to actually create the sex magic nuclear explosion in the desert that brought forth Choronzon. So there seems to be a connection with that stuff and needlecraft. Remember, it's an insertion, an injection. Like I joked a few weeks ago, the only thing that anyone is going to stick in me is a man's penis. Obviously, I'm straight, but that's how adverse I was to these RNA augmentation needlecrafts. Okay, so I'm reading up on this. That's another, the two ways you deal with Choronzonic energy is the first one. This is so important. Shut it out. Okay, as soon as when you're if as soon as someone starts just derailing your train of thought, and Choronzonic energy is absolutely central to these I fucking love science types. Absolutely central to them. You go to their pages, it is nothing but babbling in the abyss. It's pure Choronzonic energy. And if you ever get these people on your page and you're talking about, well, I don't know, I'm not taking the needlecraft. I'm not comfortable with it. You will have the babblers, babble, 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 babble. That's Choronzonic energy. Immediately remove, because it's trying to get into your mind to create confusion, so you do not attain enlightenment. Remember, all of us, before our greatest spiritual experience, was the dark night of the soul, was the tower, was the collapse. That's what freed us. The old flesh had to fall away so the new skin could, on your soul or your spiritual life, could begin. And you have to keep this in mind, that we're there. We're going to get through this fine. I promise you. I absolutely promise you. But I can't bring each and every one of you individually along on this. This is up to you. Some people who've taken needlecraft have now been emailing me saying, I haven't felt right ever since I did it. Is there any kind of thing I can do? Is there a magic ritual? Is there some kind of treatment? No, I don't know. And I'm not getting involved. This is your path to follow. This was your cross to carry, to use a Christian thing. Okay? Okay, you may have had a lapse. You may have panicked. A lapse in fortitude. You're only fucking human. I'm not going to judge you that way. And Choronzon got in. The next thing you know, you had double needlecraft. And you feel like shit. And I know all you lot, many of you lot who have been double needlecraft, I know that you're lying in bed at night. You may not want to admit it to yourself or anyone else, but I know every last one of you. I know you are. If you have an internal monologue, I'm not counting the NPCs now, I know you're worried about this. Did I rush in too soon? Did I, then in those cases, yeah, the horse is bolted after the gate has been closed. The day has been closed and the horse is already bolted. So what do you do? I don't know. But maybe that's your enlightenment, your path to enlightenment. I hope everything is okay with you. But I know you are. I see you. I meet you. I talk to you. Your eyes are not the same. You're not the same. You're not the same person. Your skin doesn't look even right. There's something not right with you. That thing has messed with you. And you know it. I saw a video of a 20-year-old girl from TikTok today, 19 years old. 19 years old. She got double needlecraft back. Now, this is something to think about. Back in March. So it's March, April, May, June, July, and beginning of August. Say 7 months, 6, 7 months, right? It took the 6 and 7 months for things to show up. She can't remember the names of people that she's meeting 3 times a week. She can't remember the names of everyday objects. She's having blackout and she's having pre-stroke effects she's eventually heading for a stroke at fucking 19. And it's just shocking. And then she still says, "I'm not telling anyone not to get it." It's what the babblers in the abyss. Fauci is a classic. Fauci is absolutely possessed by the Choronzonic demon, as is the whole Nephit group here in Ireland, Hancock and the rest of them in the UK. All that dancing, the TikTok dancing by the nurses, people couldn't see. People were dying of cancer and other diseases in hospitals, and their relatives were not allowed in to see them. Okay? In their final moments, they're facing oblivion, whatever lies beyond that, beyond the final heartbeat. All the stuff going through them, where they need some comfort. They can't see. They couldn't see a fucking priest. They couldn't see their own family members. They couldn't see a rabbi. They couldn't see anyone to give them any help. But what did they get? Nurses and doctors dancing. Jerusalem. That's Choronzon, the babbler in the abyss, the creators of confusion, the lord of chaos, cancer, and cholera. So we have a name. I've actually suspected it from day one, but now it's more than ever. It was today when they actually, I discovered, when I looked up on this Novax thing, I was like, wow, that all you had to do was wait until this. And I guarantee in countries like Ireland, where they won't let you have hydroxychloroquine because Orange Man bad. They won't let us have the people have the choice of the Novavax because the Nephit group are completely possessed. Look at them. Tell me that's not possession. Look at how they behave. Tell me that's not possession. Look at the politicians in your own country, Macron in France. These glazed these glazed over eyes officials going around, making up all these arbitrary rules that change on a whim and contradict themselves. That's all Choronzonic energy. So I'll put a link below to the John Waters and Greg Moffat interview. Give Greg a subscription for the second hours. It's definitely well worth it. And I'll also put a link down to my original lecture on Choronzon, and so you can judge for yourself. And this is we have a target. Now, how do we fight this thing? I'm giving you an answer here. You don't engage. No contact with this thing. As soon as the babbler in the abyss shows up in your social media or in your life, immediately get away. Immediately get away. You saw how powerful it is. How it's taken the people you thought would never, ever fall for this all ran up and did it. Because the babbler was so confusing and created. What happens when you're confused? You make mistakes. Wars are not won and lost on strategy. They're won and lost on mistakes. Stalingrad. That was a mistake. But the army group South. Okay? Cost Third Reich the war. The Pickett's charge at Gettysburg. That was a mistake. The bombardment at the initial bombardment at the Somme. That was a mistake because it just told the Germans that there was a massive attack coming. That's why that failed. And on and on and on, okay? So the mistake is what caused it. The thing is, that's because confusion. The fog of war. And we're in the fog of war now. So hold on. We're attaining enlightenment here, okay? We're attaining enlightenment, okay? So take care of yourselves and be safe because we're getting there, We're getting there. We're moving forward. Also, a part of these decisions. Look, if you're an organic healer, organic anything, start putting on. Make a point of people knowing that you haven't been needle crafted yourself, and you're still organic. because that's important for people to know. Don't do it to be smug or anything like that, because people are going to know. By the way, those of you who are like healers who have now taken double needlecraft, you can't do this anymore. You can't do it. You're like a prostitute with AIDS. You can't. You're too dangerous. You're not allowed. Can't be allowed out there anymore to heal people that way. I'm talking about like these new agey kind of types. So, gosh, today I do feel better. Why do I feel better? I feel better because can see the end of the battle. That's why. Because I have a better understanding of the terrain, and you should too. Okay? So, once again, don't forget to check out those links. The Weekend Strange will be much later tonight with myself and Timony. I'll have a very interesting psychic weather one on that for you. And, take care. I love you all.